Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Good morning. This is your Hull City versus Cardiff City preview. Two sides looking for a big boost in their survival hopes. It is most definitely the epitome of a six-pointer. If Cardiff were to get 3 points today, they move 6 points ahead of Plymouth, with this being their game in hand. And plus, they get a 3-point gap on Hull. It's so tight down there. And despite what, some people may feel positive about the performances, but not the results. Some people may be, not so positive about the performances or the results. And, it's a glass empty, glass half full kind of thing. But ultimately, it is a must-win game. So, with it being a must-win game, with it being a six-pointer, have we got a full squad and we can just go with whoever's in form and whoever's the best team and blah, blah, blah? No, we cannot. Everyone's hurt. Everyone. I don't think there's anyone who's not injured, certainly in the defensive areas. But it is what it is. We go, and I've been saying for probably 2 or 3 weeks now, when you look at Cardiff City's attacking options and creative options, our best form of defense is attack, because we have a lot of good options, pace, creativity in those attacking areas. But for whatever reason, all season really, the defensive concentration just hasn't been there. And, you can say Gutas is unlucky to get sent off at the weekend, and he probably is. I think it's harsh, but he is the last man. And they get in behind us. And it's straight after half time. You're looking to really keep it tight in those early minutes of the second half, and we didn't. We let him in behind. Gutas has collided with the striker, and he's banned. And there's, then you've got Perry and G took a knock. You've got Bagan came off. You've got Alnwick on one leg. There's just no defenders. Darlin's still struggling. Joe Rawls didn't come on at the weekend with Ramsey playing 100 minutes. That indicates to me probably that Joe's not fully recovered from his injury. So there's all sorts of injuries and knocks. And, I thought Ruben looked like he was limping. I thought Alves looked like they were limping. And then you've also got the FA Cup game. But ultimately, the FA Cup game just needs to be a game. It's a free game. Just, yes, we don't want to go and get stuffed, but we also, there's plenty of squad players who are looking for game time. Your Willocks, your El Ghazis. So I'm not too worried. You can play some youngsters, Louis Giles, people like that can play. So I don't think that's a big issue. Interesting. Someone just phoned me. I don't know who that is. So there's been rumours on social media of Howverth broke his finger in the warm up on the weekend, which is that's like tip. This is like what you do. Like Alnwick on one leg, Howverth with a broken finger, rumoured. Arise Matt Turner, I suppose. And look, he's pretty highly rated, but he's never played a first team minute in a competitive game. Like Evans just said in the chat there, Dylan Lawler, it's time for him. Like, here's the thing with Dylan, right? Dylan Lawler is, so highly rated, such a good footballer. He's captain. You don't be captain of 21s at age 18 if you're not expected to go and be a first team player eventually. It's a big ask to expect an 18-year-old to come and make his debut in a must-win game. Now, the other side of that is I'm pretty sure he's got an injury anyway himself, because he pulled out of the Wales under-19 squad the other week, or last week. I would love to see, or I'd love to say that we could play the likes of Dylan we could play the likes of Matt Turner, we could play the likes of Louis Giles, and the fans wouldn't get on them if they made a mistake. But it's such a big game, and there are fans in all fan bases that just want someone to blame. You've only got to look as far as Ruben Colwell. It doesn't matter what he does, he's to blame. And, you know, I get it. The majority would stick with the youngsters. The majority would back the youngsters no matter what. At the end of the day, it's not their fault that we are where we are. But saying that, I'm also a firm believer that I think I can see what Omar Rhys is trying to build with the pace and the young players. And I'm of the belief at the moment that if you were to give him time, I think he could do something quite good with this Cardiff side. But results will ultimately decide if he gets any sort of time, if he's still here next year. All these types of decisions, they're not for now, and they will ultimately land on if he can get the results to keep us up. Tonight is a big, big, big game, especially having dropped points at Portsmouth and then going to Plymouth and playing so well in the first half, but just not taking those chances. That it's cost us in so many games. We have to be clinical, which kind of goes back to what I was saying. Because we have these defensive lapses, do we just have to go, especially at home, just go all out, all out? Martin, I'll come to that comment in a minute because I don't think we need two. Well, let's talk about it now. Martin says we need two fullbacks in the summer. So I disagree with that slightly because you've got Pacquiao and Giles ready to step into first team football next year. You've also got Bagan. Whether Bagan makes a full-time transition to centre-back would perhaps decide whether you need maybe another one. You have to see what happens with Perry and G as well. And will Rinamoto ultimately, like, for me, you cannot fault Rinamoto this season. He's been outstanding. But I would question, if everyone's fit, does he get in the central midfield as a first choice? And I would probably say no. At the moment, he gets in as a right back. So where do he make that transition to a full-time right back? And look, Joe Bagan, especially if we stick with Rhys, like we're going to play three sometimes, we're going to play left backs, four sometimes with traditional left back, but Bagan can do that. He can play in a two. And as I've said many times over the last week, having a left-footed centre-back in that left-hand side role is so beneficial to opening up that side of the pitch and moving the ball a bit quicker. So for me, it's one of them where I'm very happy with Joe Bagan. I think without a doubt, he will and should get most improved player this year. Absolutely sensational, considering a lot of people, including myself, were at least open to selling him in the summer to come back in the way he has. And these are the types of players that you need in a relegation battle, that you need at your football club if you're going to build long term, is that mentality that Joe Bagan had, that Callum Robinson had, whereby they look all but done and they find a way to get their heads down and become better. So it'll be interesting because I think you've got Giles, you've got Bagan on the left-hand side, and then you've also got O'Dowd if he signs a new contract. Did he sign a new one? Was he one of the three? I forget. I think he was. And then you've also got in emergencies people like Tanner, and then there's also the next crop of youngsters coming through. So it's it's interesting to say the least. So how will Hull line up? Hull have hit a real good bit of form. They made an interesting selection when they brought in Ruben Sellers, who was heavily linked with Cardiff City when we were looking for a manager. I was a bit on the fence with him. I do like the way he tries to play football, though. Hull City were clever in the window. They strengthened their side, and they've, ultimately have had the uptake in form that has helped them. But, and this is what I find really interesting, people say like, oh, they made some good signings and they've had an uptake in form. But actually, in their last 4 games, they beat Sunderland Saturday. They drew with Norwich, 2 good results. They also lost to Burnley and lost to Stoke. Stoke, who I thought were quite poor when we played them the other week. Prior to that, they've beaten. What they've done is Hull have beaten some of the bigger teams at the top. They've beaten Sheffield United. They've beaten, got a draw with Norwich. They beat Sunderland, but they've lost to QPR. They've lost to Stoke. They got a draw with Leeds. So they're not flying by any means. And it's funny. Rhys's first game was against Hull, and we lost 4-0. But it was like a breath of fresh air from what we'd seen under Errol Bullitt. And you almost came away like 4-0, but you could see something, or see like we were going to try and improve the way we were playing. Hull have players who can hurt you. Do they have players that can hurt, or do they have players in the areas where Cardiff are susceptible? And that's the interesting thing, because Hull plays a really narrow, odd 4-2-2-2, which I quite like, because you have the box midfield and then you also have the box in the front. It helps create central overloads. But I would argue Cardiff will want the ball in the centre of the pitch. Like, that suits us better. Where we seem to struggle is when teams get in and around, in behind the fullback areas on the inside channels. That's where we tend to switch off positionally. That's where teams seem to sneak in behind us. Generally speaking, in the central midfield and the central defence area, we're quite good. We can defend balls and do that sort of thing. Gelhardt is the obvious one who can cause a bit of mayhem. Good on the ball, scores goals. Louis Barry is out, which is big because he's such a talented footballer. João Pedro is someone who can do some damage. Came off the bench on the weekend. Cody Dramer we're familiar with. They've got pace. So Cardiff, and unfortunately defensive areas, Cardiff are just going to have to go with what they've go with. Like, it's basically who's available. I think Perry NG will play, even if he's got a bit of a knock. I expect him to play. I expect Fish to play. O'Dowda, Rena Mota. It's not what you'd call a first choice defense, but kind of is what it is, isn't it? You go with who's fit. In terms of Hull side, I think it'll be Pandora in goals, and then they'll have a back 4. Most likely Hughes, Jones, McLaughlin, and Matezo. Maybe Matezo. Not Matezo, sorry. McLaughlin at left, Coyle, and then Jones and Hughes in the centre backs. Then they'll have Matezo and Alzate as the kind of the pivot who will hold that central area a bit deeper. And this is where, because they have those that central area is so congested, what Cardiff need to do, in my opinion, is you go with Manswerk. I would even be inclined to go with Manswerk and Chambers as a double pivot to protect the makeshift defence, and then just allow the wide players, the 10, the striker, to just go do their thing, particularly in possession. Manswerk is a bit, he will get forward a little bit. Chambers will get in and around the edge of the box as well. So it'll be interesting because Alzate and Matezo will just hold that central area. Alzate is not the most mobile, and agile. So that may be an area where someone like Ruben can exploit how narrow they are and get in those little pockets of space in the wide areas. He likes to drift out wide, Ruben does, and this is a good formation to do that against because it's quite a narrow setup. But as I said the other day, and I've said a few times recently, how teams line up in a formation is not as important as people think, because ultimately they line up in a 4-2-2-2, but out of possession that will quickly become a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1, and they'll try and protect the fullbacks. So it's about in the transition when they are in that more narrow shape. When you win the ball, move it quickly, get it to your wingers, get it to your Ruben Colwells. So then it'll be Gelhardt, and normally it's Louis Barry. I was going to say Gareth Barry. Louis Barry, probably be Lincoln. And then up front, I think they'll go with Joseph, and I think it'll be João Pedro. Just have a bit of a feeling on that one, but it's with the opposition, it's always a bit of a guess. Yeah, Cody Dramer is one which may come in at left back. I like Dramer. I do. I would have liked to have seen Cardiff go back in for him, but for whatever reason, we didn't fancy him. I think he could have been an intelligent signing. I guess it'll come down to Ruben Sellers and what he fancies. You do quite often see teams when they come up, or players selected when they come up against other teams. Yeah, Crooks probably. I think it'll be either Crooks or Joseph with João Pedro. That's my guess. But like I said, I couldn't pretend to be an expert on Hull. I've had a look at the sort of the tactics and the shape and stuff. Personnel wise, it'll be on their governor. But in terms of Cardiff, like, it's what do you do? Like, what I mean, look, with the keeper situation, if that is true, that rumor that's been floating about that that Halverth broke his finger, I'm not entirely sure how he can play if he's got a broken finger. I don't know if he has. I've tried to find out. From various sources, and no one seems to be able to confirm it. So hopefully that's. I just can't see how a keeper can play with a broken finger, but maybe he plays through it. I don't know. If not, Matt Turner's in for a baptism of fire in a big game. As I say, people do seem to like him and rate him, but it's a big ask to play your first competitive game for the club. So hopefully people, we just got to get behind him as fans if that is the case, and go from there. I expect that O'Dowd will be left back. I don't think Bagan's going to be fit, and even if he's touch and go, do you risk him and make it aggravate it, and then he's out for a longer period, because he's been such a vital part of the improvements? I would argue you probably don't risk him with that type of muscular injury, but we might not have a choice. I think it'll be O'Dowd, Fish, NG, and Rena Mota. Yes, it's makeshift. It's kind of is what it is. I think only one of them is playing in their actual position. And then you go with what you could, again, like Mansverk's definitely in there for me. Depending on what the situation is with the likes of Rawls and Chambers, if both of them are out, you kind of have to play. You either have to play Ramsey, one of the youngsters, or you move Ruben back in there and play an El Ghazi or a Willock in the 10. but like Ruben and Alves were limping on the weekend after the game. So it's almost like I'm sure they would have liked to give them a rest, but what do you do? I just would like to see us go for it ultimately. Manswerk, if they're fit, I would go Manswerk. I would be inclined to go with, I'd love to, I've said it numerous times, I would love to see Manswerk, Robertson as the 2 with Colwell in the 10. I don't think Alex is up to speed yet. I don't think he's ready to come back, but who knows? They might be keeping it quiet. Bit of mind games. It's difficult, isn't it? When you've got all these rumours about injury, like Hull won't have a clue who we're going to play and where we're going to play it. I think Ashford's got to come back in. Alves, don't know what his fitness is. Obviously, if he's out or if he's got a knock, they may go with El Ghazi off the left. Don't have a real issue with that, although I would be looking to start El Ghazi on Friday against Villa. So it is tricky. I mean, if Callum Robinson's fit, you could play him off the left. Willock, again, like I haven't been massively impressed by Willock yet. I see what he's doing. And Martin makes a great point. It'll be interesting to see that under 21s group this afternoon. If anyone's missing, I did wonder whether we might go with Louis Giles at left back because it's a home game. They go with Louis Giles at left back to give us a little bit more defensive solidity, and then an O'Dowda maybe pushes up onto the left wing. I just want to see us go for it. I don't think we've got the defensive personnel nor the defensive concentration to kind of sit in and try and just hit them on the break and stuff like that, which you shouldn't be playing like that at home anyway. And I don't believe that's how Omar Risa wants to play either. He wants to play a pacey attacking football that's quick in the transition and things like that, and quick and high press. He wants that. It's just getting the personnel to do it. And it looked like he had finally got the personnel to start playing the way he wanted to play. And then we've just been hit by this injury crisis, which is insane. Like at one point on Saturday evening, it looked like we weren't going to have any centre-backs fit because NG was injured. He's not even a centre-back anyway. NG had a knock, should I say. Darlin was out. Gutas is suspended. I think it was just Fish, and that was it. And look, I understand the calls for Dylan Lawler. I'm one that rates him highly, but he hasn't played a lot of football this year. Believe he's, missed some training and things like that. So he's got knocks, injuries, and you've got to give him time. Like rushing him is just not gonna rushing him into is not going to help him long term. But then equally, if we have no other options, it is what it is. I was trying to think any of the midfielders who could play at a centre back, maybe even in a 3. And I thought, Manswerk could probably play in a 3, but I think you lose so much from him in the middle of the park that could you then have a problem? You could play Joe Rawls at left back if he's fit. It's impossible to guess the lineup or predict the lineup because we don't know who's fit and who's not. Very much the walking wounded at the moment. I could tell you the side I would love, I would like to pick, but it literally is going to be a case of who's fit. What I can tell you is I would start Salic, I would start Ashford, I would start Manswerk, I would start Fish because he's the only fit out centre back as far as I'm aware. And I wouldn't be against Louis Giles starting. Outside of that, I don't know who's fit. I was shocked to see Aaron Ramsey play 100 minutes. But as I said a bit earlier, I think that probably says more about how fit Joe Rawls was to play on Saturday as opposed to anything else. I think what will be more worrying from a Ramsey point of view is if he starts tonight. Not because I don't think he's good enough or he makes a massive difference to us, but for him to play 100 minutes 2 days ago and then start this evening, that's worrying because he's got injury problems. Very quickly before I look towards wrapping up, Paul's just said there, have they looked at why so many players have the same injuries hamstring-wise? It's got to be a reason why so many have the same injury. Is it a poor preseason or the pitches? So this is something which I'm having a couple of conversations with people from various clubs at the moment. I'm trying to put together a video on it because it's not just Cardiff. There's a lot of these types of muscular injuries, hamstring injuries, across the board at football clubs. Now, I think that is the amount of 3G, 4G pitches that they play on. Obviously, they all train on 4G these days because of the weather, because they need to train every day. And I think that it's to do with that. But it's also, I thought our pre-season was pretty poor this year. I don't think it helped us be ready for the season. We had a lot of issues. I didn't think the opposition was particularly great, and we played a lot of games. But I'd rather have played a few less games or maybe one or two less games in the pre-season, but also played a higher opposition, but higher intensity. But yeah, that's just me. Ramsey is a leader, and you watch him on the pitch. He's constantly speaking, constantly telling people where to go, what to do. He's fully committed to the cause, as shown by the amount of times he tracked runners. Sometimes weren't even his runners, tracking the wing back and so forth. He's a real leader, and it's unfortunate. I'm sure he could manage Saturday to Saturday, but 3 games in 6 days, you can't do it. It's not worth the risk. I know we all want to see Aaron Ramsey play, and I'm sure, Cardiff want Aaron Ramsey on the pitch, but it's just, if you force it, you're going to end up with him out again, the frustration, and you miss him as a player. But if Chambers and Rawls, for instance, were unavailable for selection today, you don't have a lot of options. I guess the one thing you could do is push Perry out to right back, put Rita Motor in the middle, and bring Dylan Lawler in, or another centre back from the youth setup to play alongside Fish. It's just bodies. We just don't have any. We just don't have any fit players, especially in the defensive areas. But let me know how many. Let me know what you think the score will be in the comments after the video. Let me know what your 11 would be. Try and piece it together with all the injured players. Who would you like to see get given a chance today? If we are down to the bare bones in that sort of back 4, back 5, maybe one of the midfield positions, how would you accommodate it? Would you start Ramsey if Rawls and I forgot his name, bloody hell, Chambers are not fit? Where would you go? It's such an interesting one. It's fascinating. It's a massive game. Cardiff just got to find a way to win. I don't really even care about the performance today. We just need to find a way to win. We need the creative players to step up. We need the attacking players to step up and take their chances. We need big games from the actual defenders. We do have. I thought Will Fish was really good on Saturday. He won just header after header. We're going to need that again from him. We need Mansverk to do what he's been doing, just win tackles and press and do his job. And then we just need to be effective in the transition and move the ball quickly. I do think if we start fast, that's our best option. Get the crowd behind you because everyone knows it's a big game. The crowd's going to be a little bit on edge. If you start slow, that's going to make the crowd more edgy. So in my opinion, the best thing to do is try to get the crowd on side, get the crowd behind the team. And really, as fans, then us in the ground, we have to just try and create that atmosphere and get behind the team. Just get behind the team. Because I really think we have the attacking players to create chances. Salic has showed he can score goals. So we need to take our chances. Hopefully Callum Robinson's back, but I haven't heard anything about that, which is worrying. Same with Robertson. But they could be keeping it quiet to, just keep Hull guessing. Because Hull won't have a clue what team we're going to play. But do drop all your predictions in the comments. And yeah, we were. So basically tonight, by the time I get home, it'll be too late, I think, to do a show. So I'll probably do the match reaction in the morning. Maybe I'll see what time I get home and see how quickly I get out and stuff. But we shall see, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. I've got a meeting now, so I've got to chip off. But let me know your predictions, your 11s. My prediction for the game is 2-1 to Cardiff City. Come on, the Bluebirds. Keep the faith, my friends, because the Blues are going to stay up.